Hello, everybody. I'm Anthony, along with Marco, Chris, and a special guest today. And this is episode 61 of Hard Knock Hawks. Before we start, we would like to remind everyone listening or watching to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and help to do all the things to help our podcast grow, et cetera, et cetera. We would appreciate that a lot as usual. In today's episode, we're going to be giving our thoughts on the first half of the Atlanta Hawks season and what we could expect in the second half of the season for the Atlanta Hawks. And we have a special guest today, a sports journalist you can find on Locked On Hawks and Hammer Territory podcast. He also writes articles for Fansided and is one of the monarchs of Hawks Twitter, Brad Rowland. What's up, Brad? How are you doing?
Monarchs, that's a new one.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing good, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, no problem, Brad. Thank you so much for coming here. It's gonna be really cool talking to you. But before we start really getting into our discussion, I'm just gonna give some stats about where the Hawks are currently in this season, just to like set the table and everything. So I'm using Clean the Glass for some of these stats. And they're gonna be different on like NBA.com, Pivot Fade, other sites, but generally like the gist is the same. The Hawks are the 10th seed with a 26-30 record. They're 5.5 games away from 6th seed and only 1.5 game away from being out the play-in. They have the 22nd ranked offense, and the 17th ranked defense with a negative 1.7 point differential. Like I said, I got that from Clean the Glass. Other sites can be different, but general gist is that that's not that good. So Clean the Glass expects us to win 37 games with that point differential. So I'm going to ask you, Brad, what's your general thoughts on the season so far?
I mean, it's a mixed bag. I think we kind of know that. It's been weird. Like I was actually talking earlier to Tyler Jones earlier on a podcast that hasn't run yet, and kind of run through like it's almost easy to forget what this team is supposed to be built around in some respects, which was like a lot of Trae Young and Porzingis, and those guys just didn't play. I mean, Trae got hurt, Porzingis never played essentially, and it's like understandable as to why the Hawks are where they are right now if you factor in just how much time has been missed by those two players who are literally not in the roster anymore. And they weren't they were kind of replaced in the Trae trade. Like McCollum is not Trae, but he's a good player. But also there's been a bunch of games that have been winnable that they've lost. Like I think even with some of the absences and roster questions that I'm sure we'll talk about, they could still probably have won a handful more games and have the record flip maybe, and be more in that mix for like the 6-7 spot than they are right now in that 9-10 range. So it's been frustrating for sure. I think they're still entertaining on a nightly basis most of the time. And if you try to remove yourself, but it's also like you're pulling your hair out a lot of the times too with this team. So I don't know. It's trying to grade it. It's hard, but it's definitely not been what they hoped it was going to be. And I think I'm not sure if you guys like watched all of what Ansi had to say after the deadline and all those things, but they were basically almost admitting like this is the different team that they were hoping or thinking it was going to be coming into the season. And a lot of that's injury related, but also it's like the whole direction of the franchise has changed in not that short of a period of time. Like it's not Trae Young's team anymore. And it already wasn't tracking to be necessarily coming into the year, but tracking to and like completely pulling the plug within 3 or 4 months is different. And then Porzingis too. So it's a different team now. And I don't know how good they actually are. That's one of those things now. Like we've only had this team for 5 weeks, 6 weeks since McCollum and Kispert arrived, and they haven't been very good. So it's like they're a 500-ish team, and the schedule is easier the rest of the way. Can they win more games? Yes. Jonathan Kuminga is a question mark. Like I like him. I like him coming in, but like, is he going to play? Is he going to be healthy to play? We're recording this Tuesday night. I'm not even sure he's going to play on Thursday. We don't really know. So a lot of uncertainty, and that's not like satisfying, I know, but it's just kind of what it's been. It's like a bunch of false starts, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, if you told any of us that Trae, Porzingis were all going to be traded in, like, by the deadline, and then, like, Nickeil Alexander was going to be starting as, like, point guard, like, I would honestly be like, there's no way this is happening. Or just or we maybe got our pick back or something, or we're taking. Like, it's just insane, like how much this season has just changed in literally just 2 or 3 months. Honestly, I'm honestly impressed, like how many games the Hawks have won despite all that change. But it's just it's kind of remarkable, like how quickly things just have happened. What do you think, Marco?
Yeah, man. If you told me that we wouldn't have Trey in February, and that I kind of expected Porzingis not to play, something in the back of my head was just like, you want him to play at least 50 games and at least be available for the postseason. But something in the back of my head was like, he's just not going to play. You got hit with a new diagnosis, something that's not like really common with players, and it's like, what is that? Then it flared up. Then it's times he's been good to go. Then he's like ruled out last minute just because of that.
I thought he was gonna play like 20 games. He didn't even do that. Like that's a crazy.
Yeah,
part.
I think he only hit like 14 with us.
It was 17. 17 out of like 53, I think. That's it. Honestly, I was just shocked. Like it was that bad. Like that.
Yeah.
I think it was like 13 of the first 26 too, or something like that.
Yeah.
It got worse after that.
It's even funnier that Steve Kerr was like, we know he'll come back and get healthy. Like, nah, man, that ship is sailed.
Okay, but, we'll see about that.
But I will say, just like Brad said, we don't really know how to really feel about this team now because we haven't seen it. Like it's fully Jalen's team now, so it's like, can we pivot? Can we get a solid offseason? Really buckle down to what we have. How can we excel with Jalen? I think this is the first time our offense has been like this low and like since the Trae Young era, and now that he's kind of going, we're just kind of is there. 27th was actually like worse than what I was thinking. I thought we were like 16ish, not 16, it's like in the 18, 19 range. I thought we were somewhere around that, but like, yeah, current take on the team is kind of weird. Like you have good players, but is that then of course you have the question with Kuminga, like if Kuminga can come in and really provide what we need for the team, that's another rim runner, another rebounder, another solid 6'7" wing that actually can play some defense. So if he can at least pan out, then I can see us winning more games because that takes off some of the perimeter defense helps a lot. That takes off a Dyson some, takes off a Nikhil some, takes off a Jalen some when he is playing defense. So what about you, Chris?
Oh, well, how I feel about this team. I try not to feel much about this team right now, considering everything that's gone on this season. And I try to tell people like to try to detach. I mean, night to night, I want to win, and it's fun to see the boys compete and all that. But with the plan blowing up, barely a week or two into the season, it was just pretty much like over then, and it was on to like the future almost. I think the Hawks were ready for it, and they gave it the old college try. I don't know that Trey should even have played when he did, but they brought him back to see like if he could fit what they're doing now. But I feel like it happened so early. They just like kind of grew and moved on to something else as a group, and we're like building the Jalen Johnson show. And he's shown so much that it was just clear the writing was on the wall. I think that they were going to move on to that era. You didn't know how soon. When Trey came back and things didn't go great, it was pretty much over then. There's no point in bringing Kristaps back if he couldn't get any type of consistency with the group because he couldn't play 2 games in a row. They couldn't depend on him. So it pretty much turned into Ansi waiting to make moves at the deadline, and the roster kind of to the guys' credit, they stayed above water a bit. Like, right, the wheels could have fallen off given the depth issues and Onyeka having to play all the minutes he did, but they competed and like they're right there in the play-in fight, and they, like you said, they're within a good couple weeks of making a run at the 6th seed. So the boys staying above water until Ansi can make deals at the deadline. I respect that. I think Ansi did a good job with the hand he was dealt in terms of the contracts and the health. Trey didn't help his value at all, and Kristaps played well, but he couldn't play. I think you found a team that was like right in that desperation zone of willing to bring in Kristaps to see, and they had a distressed asset in Kuminga who they weren't going to play either. So the Hawks got to bring in a guy, take a flyer on him, see what he can do for the future. You still have that optionality because you can release him if it's not working, or trade him, or do whatever you need to do to open up that money. So I think all in all, it's been obviously an up and down season. For the hand they were dealt, I think they've done well with where they're at. And now that they have in reinforcements, you might see some consistency, right? CJ's bringing some scoring that they really needed and ball handling. Jalen's continuing to grow, and you've got some guys now that have some opportunity, and they had like 25 or so games to really kind of mesh and see what they can do going into the play-in. It's not a great situation right now. It's hard to rebuild on the fly or retool. So when Auntie gets a chance to really restack the deck in the offseason, you'll get to see what his vision is for this group. But for now, I think that they did well with what they could. And now that they have multiple centers, all right, they have a chance to win a few more games.
Yeah, and I'm interested to just ask y'all about this, because I think a lot, despite like how many changes have happened throughout the season, I know Auntie has not been getting like a lot of heat for it, but I know that Quin Snyder definitely has, because we have like, I think there's a, I guess, kind of fair case to be made that the team hasn't necessarily progressed the way I think people expected it to. But considering the massive amounts of changes that have happened over like the past few months, or I should say years, like every single year, I think it's a fair thing to make. Go ahead, Chris. I know you're
no, every year. We barely get 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to make. Fair thing to say. Like, I'm interested to see what happens with like Quin, because I mean, I assume they're not gonna fire him. I think he's just way too talented of a coach, and like just too valuable of like a coach to just be, hey, you're gone. No, we don't want you anymore, right? Like, and we've seen how players like Jalen, Nickel, Dyson, and Onyeka have developed under him over the past few years. So I think despite like all the turbulence that has happened, I think there is obviously like a reason to keep him. It's just a question of whether or not we're still gonna have like a functioning roster for him at this point. But what do you think, Chris? Because I know you're already you're about to say something. You're not going to react.
I don't know that I had a lot to say. I'm not one of the fire Quin people. I'm also not one of like the Quin Snyder like believers either. Like, I think he's a good coach. I think he's had a lot of craziness happen with the roster over the last few years. And Quin's not like a tinkerer coach, right? There are different types of coaches, and he's like a consistency guy, and he like wants a group that he can kind of build up. And I think the fact that the roster is constantly changing, and he started building an identity, and now like it's completely flipped. I think that's not great for him. And personally, I'm more of a personnel guy over the X and O's anyway. I think there's a huge, you have to have the talent for the coach to really cook. And I don't know that he has the groceries that he needs to like serve up the dinner, right? So I think they're still getting the roster in the right place. And I think Quin, for what he's had, has done a solid job. And I think Jalen Johnson has become an all-star underneath him. You've seen Dyson Daniels almost get depoy. Like he's developed some players. But when you have one big for like most of this season, Jalen Johnson gets hurt for most of the last 2 years. There's just only so much that Quin can do. And I think keeping them above water for the personnel he's had is, like I said earlier, it's impressive. I think the real evaluation comes when they think their roster is where it needs to be. One question I do have, though, is if they want Quin to coach this new player coming in, right?
Yeah.
Because he's so young and he's supposed to be a big player for the organization. And does Quin want to do that and kind of almost take a step back and make sure, because that's kind of a 2-year plan at least. You don't want to put too much on this kid. So I think you're trying to prepare him. And does Quin want to do that, or does he want to move on and try to contend? I think that's a question. For me, it's not about his ability. I think the personnel has to improve before you can really judge him.
What do you think, Brad, about like the Quin conversation?
The Quin conversation is funny. Yeah, I agree with honestly with a lot of what Chris said. Like, I think that I totally understand frustration because he came in with a lot of fanfare coming from Utah. That midseason hire was kind of a strange thing where he got, usually when you're hiring midseason, you don't hire an established coach. It was a very odd thing that happened. But I think people thought that they were going to just win. And there are all kinds of roster explanations why they haven't won under Quin. I don't think Quin is the reason why they haven't won, which is what Chris just said too, and I 100% agree. I also think it's also like he's not. There's a school of thought that I will reference. I don't fully believe this, but I think it's partially true that there are only like a handful of real difference making coaches in the league, and then there's like maybe a handful of guys who are like kind of bad, like pretty not bad by NBA standards. Like these guys are all really smart, even the bad coaches. But like, and basically there's like 20 or 22 in the middle, and I think Quin is in the middle. Like there are strengths and weaknesses on both sides. The one thing I've been picking on him, I think pretty reasonably this year, is like there's some rotation stuff that just doesn't make sense sometimes. Like, and that's fine. I mean, that's something I always admit. Like on the outside, it's easier for us, people like us, to like critique rotations because we can see that it's a decision that's like very public facing. We can see it. We have lineup data. We have our eyes. All these things, right? So it's easier for us to like critique. Quin's like really, really well regarded in NBA circles for his like schematic smarts. Like they run really good stuff on offense. You see that they're leading the league in assists without Trey. Like that's a crazy thing. That goes to coaching to some degree and how they play. And honestly, didn't hire Quin, which is part of the interesting situation they have now. Yeah. But honestly, also went out of his way multiple times in the last 2 weeks to be like, hey, we've given Quin 4 different rosters this season. So, which you guys just brought up, and it's true. It's 100% true. Like, it's really hard to do that. There have been times, though, where it's like, hey, can you win a couple more games? Can you, like, pull some stuff out of the fire? Like, all that's very much fair. People get mad at me, as you won't be surprised, that I'm not, like, chanting to fire Quin every day. And, like, I don't feel that he should be fired. I also think that if, at the end of the season, if they part ways, that won't be some injustice to me. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, this is a nerdy reporter thing that I'm about to throw at you, but it's also true. This summer is like a big potential pivot point for Quin in Atlanta. And part of that is just because of the natural cycle, new GM and all that, but also contractually has 1 year left on his deal after this year. And guys like that, Quin Snyder is really respected. They don't want to coach on a lame nut contract. So, like, if you're the Hawks, it's basically like, do we want to extend? Do you want to send the press release out this summer to say we are extending Quin Snyder, coming off of a 4-season run with like middling results, not terrible results, but middling results? It's like kind of a hard press release to send out. You know what I mean? Fans are like, really? We're extending this guy?
Only been to one playoff series and we didn't even win. Like
that's a hard sell, but at the same time, I don't think Quin, I don't want to say refuse, but like guys in that position do not want to be coaching on a lame duck. So like I could see, and I said this on my Patreon chat today, and I wasn't like reporting it, but like it will not surprise me at all if we get to like May 1st and there's like a mutual parting of ways between the Hawks and Quin Snyder. Like they kind of shake hands and say, you know what, let's go our separate ways. Ansa gets to hire his guy. Quin gets to not get fired, but also not be on a lame duck contract. Maybe he gets some of the money that's owed to him. We'll never find that out. It'd be one of those like very polite parting of ways. That's like very possible to me. Or maybe, they get along really well. It's like, it's hard to separate because I've heard nothing but good things about how the way that Ansi and Quin work together. Like they apparently do get along. But that doesn't mean he's going to be the coach moving forward. So it's like, I don't think Quin's a bum, but that's funny to me that people think that. He's really smart, but he has weaknesses too. And they haven't won. I mean, it's a results business, man. It's life in the big city. You got to win games, and they haven't won games. Even if there are reasons for that, and there are for sure. But if you can't fire the players, the coach is the one that gets the heave ho. I mean, they already fired the GM. That's the other thing. They fired the GM last year and kept the coach. And now the next guy that gets the heat is usually. And by the way, they didn't fire Trae Young, but they kind of fired Trae Young. They fired the star and the GM. The last guy standing is the coach.
And Trae was Quin's biggest supporter. Right? I mean, one of his biggest supporters. So who knows?
It's a tough conversation for sure. I think it's really tough. And, the internet doesn't allow for tough conversations. It's like he has to be either awesome or a complete bum, and he's neither one of those things. He's a pretty good coach.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Marco, of the Quin conversation? Since we're going to that now.
I actually didn't. Chris and Brad brought up good points that they might just mutually part ways. I'll start with my personal take on Quin. I have no beef with Quin. I do like Quin as a coach. I do think he's creative when it comes to offensive schemes, things like that. My personal problem with Quin, and like Brad said, is just lineups sometimes, and it just overall creativity with the lineup. Sometimes I know you don't want to throw Moji out there, and you don't want to throw Jalen at the 3 sometimes, but it's been games we've lost purely just because of lack of size. We get out rebounded in clutch moments, and it's because we're running like Kispert at the 3. We're running like somebody small at the 2, or his favorite lineup before Vit Krejci came out, the Keaton, Kennard, and Vit lineups is like you can't run those lineups and like expect it. But I also get why he did it, just because of he can trust those guys and NBA experience, and it's like that's all you have at that time. And yeah, Quin's been here for about 4 seasons now, 3-4 seasons now.
This is 4th.
Yeah, this is 4th season. So it's like, yeah, we haven't had the best results. We pivoted last year. We kind of just gave that season up once we got the number 1 pick. We were just like, okay, well, even before then, Jalen got injured. Trey got injured too a little bit. So we're just like, okay, we're just going to sell it. Hopefully we can get a top lottery pick. Hopefully we can bring some guy in that'll help. We got lucky, ended up getting the first, and that's a different conversation for that one. And then you tried to come in. You went and got Dyson as well. You had a decent young group, and you're like, okay, we still reached 40 wins last year with we're probably like 4 or 5 real players on that roster, and the rest should have been at McDonald's. So that was good on him. Then now this year, like Chris said, we're kind of staying above water. So Quin has coached up. He's coached to his max degree as he can at this point. Now it just comes down to, does Quin have the personnel? I know there's been arguments on Twitter that Quin isn't using some guys right. Quin isn't like really trying to develop certain guys right. Quin has his favorites, and I'm like, that's not really the case for most. I mean, yeah, he probably has like a favorite set of guys to run clearly, but it's like Quin only can do so much with the people, like the personnel he has. Like, we can't expect him to turn water into wine all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. Like, so I personally don't dislike Quin. I think he's done the best he can with the dysfunctional front office problems we've had. Tony stepping in at times and just random roster acquisitions. You handed him David Roddy one year and told him to do something good with it. So I feel like if they part ways, that's probably the best. You still can have a good relationship, and you can still see that, hey, this is just not the best for both of us. So if they part ways, I get it. Is what it is, what it is. That's just how the way the business works. And it's just like Chris said, we have the highest odds to land the first pick at like 16% in NBA history. So it's like, does Quin really want to coach that young guy? Because that's another young guy he's going to have to coach up, develop. You're actually going to have to give him minutes. You can't throw him in the G League, especially if it's any of the top 3 guys. You have
if they throw him in the G League, that would be crazy.
Yeah, you can't.
There's 0 chance of that happening.
PR-wise, Hawks are not about to do that. And again, you actually have to play that guy. So it's just like, does Quin want to do that?
And Chris, don't say what you're about to say. I know what you're thinking.
Then really, you're handing Quin another. Then I'll end it off with this. You're also handing Quin another development piece for these last 26 games, because Kuminga's still 23. I think we have somewhat of an idea what Kuminga is and what Kuminga can be, but then now they're telling Quin, like, hey, can you develop him now too? Because we want to see what he has. And I'm pretty sure Quin, that was the main reason he left Utah, because he didn't want to rebuild. So yeah, I ended on that. Like I said, no beef with Quin. I think if they do another year, I support it. If they go mutual ways, I also see why.
Yeah, I think what happens with Quin this summer is it's going to be really interesting, because we have one of the youngest teams in the NBA. Technically, we're going to be younger. Like, does Quin want to be here again with all the roster changes? I honestly got no clue right now. It's just it's just a lot of turmoil. But we're gonna move on to a different conversation. I think one that's been way more controversial in the past few weeks. I'm just gonna get out the way. We're gonna talk about Zaccharie Risacher for a few minutes because we have to. So Zach has been, I think, a very interesting player this season for the Hawks. He's below his average points from last season, but other than that, he's almost averaging the exact same amount of rebounds, steals, blocks, assists, turnovers, stuff like that. I think it's fair to say like you've seen some growth in like defense a little bit, but offense I think has been like not as impressive as people thought, generally speaking. And obviously he's the first overall pick from 2024 draft, so you expect some kind of leap at some point, but you know, people could say growth is linear. As probably the only Zach believer in this Hard Knock Hawks group, right? I can say, am I worried about Zach? Kind of, but at the same time, like he's 20. We'll just have to wait and see. You know, maybe he can turn 21. He can turn to something different this offseason. I don't know, but what's your thoughts, Chris? Because I know you've had thoughts on him since day one.
Starting with me.
Yes, starting with you. That's why I said don't say anything about the G League because I know exactly what you're gonna say. You're gonna say send him to the G League.
I wasn't. I was not gonna say that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm watching you.
Zaccharie Risacher. I think the conversation it's complicated, right? It all depends on your expectations of Zach, like coming in and like who you thought he was as a prospect, and I've talked about it as like almost a first overall pick, like hypnosis that almost happened with a lot of people that like they completely forgot like who he was as a prospect when he drafted him, and they're like he might be Tatum, he might be this, he might be that. So there's like a whole segment that like just lost their minds over Zach, and I think they have made it difficult to talk about him. I think Zach is a solid wing prospect overall, right? The odds of him ever achieving that draft slot value are just like very slim given his game, right? And he's got some clear limitations that are going to take time to iron out, and it's taking a little bit longer than some expected. The shooting has been a little disappointing this season. I'll say you expected him to progress a little bit there. I talked over the summer, like you really wanted to see like the movement shooting pop and all that, because he's the physical profile is going to take a while. The physicality and the ability to handle the ball in traffic, and to effectively use that length, he needs to be more physical, and that body is just not going to fill out in a year. He's kind of behind there. So the parts of his game that he was good at, I wanted to see him like kind of really improve, and he hasn't improved there. Like stagnation is not necessarily regression overall, and I think his role kind of is what it is, and it's complicated because he's not going to get the same looks every night, and some nights he's going to get it more than others. And I think some people are upset about his minutes, and they're also upset about Quin about winning. So they want Quin to win, but they also want Zach to play 30 minutes. And Quin hasn't figured out how to do that every night because Zach's just the consistency isn't there. The floor, I feel like, as a player is just not quite there. It's the parts of his game that he could rely on, or that some players rely on to get points or to produce. He can't go there yet, right? He can't like drive and get to the free throw line consistently to score and add. He's really got to rely on the 3-point shot. So if the three isn't falling, it looks really bad for Zach Knight tonight. I would like to see some more rebounding, but that's part of the physicality aspect of it. He's trying to get out and leak because that's one of the few ways he can score. And he's not necessarily going to bang down low with guys that are a lot bigger than him. He can't really take the forwards on defensively yet because of that body. So there's so much of it that comes back to he just has to physically mature. And as a prospect, it's just going to take a while. And I'm not sure if the Hawks have that time, how the money is going to work, because Zach will want an extension at some point, and they have to figure out that investment. Are they going to like pay him for what he's been? Are they going to expand that role? What role does Zach see for his future? I think like the next couple years for the Hawks and Zach could be complicated, and I wouldn't be surprised if they let someone else figure out Zach's future if they get the right pick in this draft, or Kuminga hits, or however, right? I don't know what Ansi's vision is, because Ansi didn't really pick Zach technically. So he could pivot. I wouldn't be surprised. You got to put yourself in the plan in the NBA, and it's kind of quick to fall out of it. And I think Zach has some opportunity to do that over the next couple months. And I'm not sure if he'll have it next season, right? But yeah, he's just really got to take hold of the opportunity, kind of show some consistency and earn coach's trust, because I think that's the biggest part of it. And if Ansi sees that Quin isn't playing Zach, and Ansi wants Quin back, right, then Zach might go. Now, if the new guy likes Zach and they have a plan for Zach's future, or if they're like going to do some development, right, we could see Zach back. So it's really up in the air. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. I think as a player, he still just really has to get stronger and master his craft. So much of it just comes back to that body. And I think in the next few years, you might see him figure it out. I don't know what his ceiling is. I think he can be a good role player in the NBA, at least. You know, he can shoot it a little bit. It's not like that high-end shooting, right? But he's 6'10", and he can shoot it. So that's a guy that will be on NBA rosters for a long time. I'm just not sure where he'll be. He could be one of the journeymen. Those wings are very popular. They get a lot of jobs. So we'll see what ends up with that, where Zach ends up. Yeah, just good luck to him, I guess. That's all I can really say.
Oh, my God. Let's go to Mark, or I'm going to go to who wants to respond? I guess Marco first, and then I'll go to Brad.
My favorite.
Oh, my God.
My favorite. I'm going to give, I think with Risacher, it has been a bit disappointing, because his last few games, like the post All-Star break rookie year, he actually was starting to show some promise. I think he finished off averaging like 12, almost 13 points. Rebounding was still low for my taste, but he still showed improvement. And as I said in the offseason, if Zach can just build up on those things into his second year, he will always have a role on his team. He might not be a starter, but at least he'll still be like a backup 6, like long as he can, not backup 3, as long as he can do, elevate on the things that he was doing good on, then I think he would have been fine. But so far this season, I think the Zach Risacher show has not been 5-star rating. I think he's been like a good 2.5 rating on ABC Family. So it's not, it hasn't been too good. And it's just like, certain fans want to play Zach late, and I get it. Like the Hornets game, Zach should have closed. Like Quin should have closed with Zach. He was hot. He was playing. He was helping defense. Even if he wasn't grabbing a rebound, he still was like tipping the ball, like Jalen, Onyeka, whatever. So it was actually helping, and we did need the size. Kispert shouldn't have closed that game. I will agree there. There's been a few games that Zach should have closed this season. But I think that Timberwolves game was one of those prove it moments for Zach. Now, that is a Timberwolves, it's a hard team, hard sell, but as a wing that we want to trust, and I don't view you as the normal number 1 pick, because you aren't the normal number 1 pick. We took fit over whatever for number 1 pick in that draft, and I get it, because that draft has many opinions. You can, whatever opinion you have on the draft is whatever. But I think the Timberwolves game was kind of telling on Zach isn't what the majority of the fan base thought he could be or what he is. And he had the wide open lane. No Jalen, no Dyson. It literally was the Zach show that night. And again, it got to a 1-star rating that night. So I don't know what the Hawks plan for Zach is. If the Hawks are planning to compete next year, which I believe so, because Dyson's contract does kick in, and you're not going to have a developmental year on multiple guys making 25 million plus. You actually want to start really doing something. And I don't think Zach is on that current timeline now. I could be wrong. Again, the Hawks might see and one more developmental summer for Zach and hope he just comes back. You know, maybe it's a sophomore slump, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But as of right now, I don't believe that Zach is on that competing trajectory that they want next year. And like Chris said, if they keep Quin and Onzi sees that Quin already isn't really trusting Zach as a player, it's like, okay, that's it's kind of already telling. Is like Zach might be on the way out as a club option. I'm pretty sure they're not just going to full on release him. They'll probably try to get something back for him if they just feel like it's just best to move on. They're going to try to just trade him, get something for him. And I also don't think the Hawks have the time to develop him that the Hawks really have. Again, you have multiple guys making 25+ million next year. You want to actually start, you know, laying down some type of foundation. You want to start actually being in the big leagues. You want to start competing for actual top six. Jalen made All-Star, so you don't want to speed up the timeline or the trajectory too fast, but you do want to like actually start making some strides in that. So I'm personally out on Zach. I know it's kind of harsh to say on the pod or whatever and whatever. I think it's just at that point, it's just like he needs to go to a team where he actually can develop, like where he can actually get the touches he needs, minutes he needs, give Zach that opportunity to make the mistakes he needs to make to actually like get a mental fortitude and all type of thing. Because Zach has also a tendency of once it's not going his way, he's just like in a slump that whole game. He can't get himself out of that slump. So he just needs to go somewhere where he can fully develop, get the minutes he needs, get the playing time role, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. I will let you have the floor, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about with Zach. I can see all the sides. It's one of those things where I don't think he's trash, which people keep saying. Like, I think that's overreactionary. I think that he also isn't on a star trajectory. I don't think he was ever going to be a star. It was possible. I never like ruled it out, but like that wasn't what you should have expected coming in. People did because I think as soon as you go with that draft slot, that's a whole different conversation. I understand, but like, there's no reason with someone that's just going to associate that draft slot with a star. That's not fair to Zach. It's also what was always going to happen. Like I yelled that whole summer. Like, and by the way, it wasn't just Zach. If they had taken whoever at that slot, Alex Sarr, Donovan Clingan, pick your guy that you like. I would have said the same thing about whichever player it was. Like, don't expect a star, guys. It's not going to be a star. This is not Zion. This is not. And I did say that. It's on film somewhere. But this season's been disappointing. I think that's fair to also say. Like, I still think he could be an interesting prospect. Every team in the league wants what he could be. Not saying what he's going to be, but what he could be. 6'9", two-way forwards, like, don't grow on trees. The Hawks will never say this, but I know that was at least part of the calculus in the end was like, hey, they like everybody, not everybody, they like a lot of people realized there wasn't like the guy in that class. If they could have traded that pick for appropriate value, they would have done it. If they could have traded down, that was always a popular idea. It's like, guys, someone has to want to trade up, and no one wanted to trade up. Like you have to have both sides. But part of what they did was basically say, you know what, we like Zach, and they did obviously, but it was like all else fails. Like the positional value here matters. Like if we can get a two-way starter at the forward spot, that has real value. And they are not wrong about that. I think right now, for example, Donovan Clingan is a lot better than Zaccharie Risacher right now in the NBA. That's fair to say. That was probably always going to be the case earlier in their career. That's not why you draft a guy, though. You're drafting for 3 years from now, 4 years from now. It might be wrong still. I'm not saying they're right. That was part of the calculus. Anyway, as far as the season's concerned, I can't remember which one of you guys said it just now, but it was one of the, it's not a direct line always. It's like, there's a thought that Zach should close every game. No, he shouldn't. Like there have been plenty of games where he shouldn't close. There have been plenty of games that I think that he probably should have played more in the end. And it's been frustrating if you're a fan, especially for a team that, let's be honest, guys, it's not going to win a championship this year.
Yeah. That's my point. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're fine.
It's just that it's weird to hear that point about like, oh, I don't need Zach to play like every single game. It's just that I just find it weird that, oh, we can't play Zach because we're trying to win. And it's like, we're 26-30. We're literally like a game and a half out, almost out the play. And like, we're literally almost about to not be in the playoffs. We're not.
I'm with you.
Of that.
I think that, and again, I'm not. There are also situations where I genuinely think he's been the best option to play. Like for me, if it's close, I would lean to playing the 20-year-old that you want to be a part of your long-term future, right? If it's close on a team like this, they're not winning 55 games this year. If it's close, I lean to Zach. But like, due respect to Corey Kispert, who's a professional NBA player, like you don't need to close with Corey Kispert over Zach. Like almost ever. There was a game recently where Zach was terrible. Okay, sit Zach down. You didn't earn it tonight, young fella. Cool. But if it's like close, like I just, but it goes to what we said a little bit earlier. I'm going to go back to Quin, but there's a little bit of misalignment, and not like maliciously so, but honestly, very clearly. And I appreciated him being as candid as he was with the media about like, hey, this is all at the deadline about how future facing it all was. It's like, this is all about the future. Cool. I knew it was, but he said it out loud, which helps me like, hey guys, he said it. I'm not just telling you. He literally said it into a microphone. Then you turn around and Quin is like not coaching like that. He's not coaching like the future is what the focus is. So which one is it? And some nights, you know, this is about Zach, but like you can talk about Asa this way, Mo this way. Like they've been playing Asa some. Cool. Like I'm all about that. Not playing Mo some. It's just directionally it's a little bit strange, but to wrap my thought on Zach, and you guys can go wherever you want. I think it's okay to be disappointed. It's fair that he's not taking the linear step that you would have wanted him to take. And I think, unfortunately, the stuff that he actually did get better at this season compared to last season is the stuff that nobody cares about. I'm serious. It's like he's better executing defensively.
Yeah.
Like he's better executing defensively now than he was as a rookie. He knows what he's doing a lot more than he was. His rebounding is a little bit better than it was as a rookie. Not huge steps forward. His steal rate's up. Like stuff that like matters, but isn't going to move the needle in any conversation. He is a little bit better at it. But hey, nobody cares about that. I don't think he's going to ever be a 25-point scorer. That's not going to happen. But it would be nice if he made some shots. And I said this on my show, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I know I'm not. He is the kind of prospect where he does need to make shots. Like he's been a league average shooter this year. It's not like I see him, especially after Rising Star, which it annoyed me because people like act like that matters. It doesn't matter. But there are nights when it's like, Dan, he's missing. He looks terrible as a shooter, and then there's nights where he looks good as a shooter. But him being a league average shooter, it feels worse than that. I think right now, even though it's not. But he needs to be better than that. Like to be the good player that they want him to be. I'm not saying he has to be Klay Thompson, but he's got to shoot in the high 30s from three, realistically, to be the player that they want him to be. And he hasn't done that yet. He's had stretches of that. Last year, second half of the season, it was high 30s. But that's not a secret. Everybody knows that. Role players like that, and that's what he is right now, a role player. He's got to make shots, and he hasn't made a ton of shots this year. So throw that all in the blender. He's also French. That's not going to help him in some conversations. You know what I mean? It's just not. We can be honest. Like he doesn't have like the college pedigree to fall back on. The memes become funnier because it's a French guy struggling. Like you know what I mean? It's like check all the boxes. And like number one overall, Anthony Bennett comparisons. It's like guys, he's already way better than Anthony Bennett ever was. But no one cares about that because he's not Cooper Flegg. He's not Victor Wembanyama. And I hope for his sake, generally speaking, I don't really get into like. I hope it doesn't get bad. The discourse has gotten bad the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you guys seen what I've seen. It's gotten real nasty.
We're in all the Twitter chats. It's literally
it's gotten real nasty.
Conversations every day.
And I get it.
Yeah.
I genuinely do understand why it's happening. I don't agree with it, but I understand why it's happening. I think, and I said this on my show, it'd be really beneficial for everybody involved. Team, Ansi, Quin, Zach, if he just played better down the stretch.
Yeah.
If it's just like last year's second half of the year where he was like not some awesome player, but like clearly making steps and like shooting better, that would be really helpful to just bank. Even if they want to trade him this summer, which they might do. Look, he's not untouchable in a trade. I reported multiple times they did not want to include him for Anthony Davis. You can disagree or not. They weren't going to trade him, but he's not untouchable in a trade in the way that most guys would be at that draft slot. He could be traded this summer. It wouldn't blow me away at all. But it would be helpful even for that to have him just be a little bit more intriguing down the stretch here, just to like take some heat off the situation. Because right now the heat is turned high, we'll say.
yeah, like it's been like a really, really long time since I've seen like a Hawks player like get this much discussion. Like this is like Cam Reddish levels of.
I think it's worse. I mean,
it's
Cam.
It's worse.
Oh yeah,
It's worse than
probably
Cam.
is.
Yeah.
Well, because
Cam was hurt so
pick.
much too that people
Like,
were like, Cam might be good when he comes back. Cam didn't play a lot.
Yeah, not to. I will say it's a little different because, and maybe this is just my. I always thought Cam's upside was really overrated. I never thought he really had the juice people thought he did. But if you watch Cam on a mixtape, he looked like he was going to be a star. You know what I mean? And people saw those little tiny flashes with him. And also he was an American high school player who went to Duke. It's a different pipeline.
It's that Edwards video too.
Correct. He went to lunch with LeBron and Rich as a junior in high school. That happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these things happened, but he had the Hooper label. It was like, oh, Cam's a bucket getter. All these. Zach's never been that kind of player. So even people that gave Cam a lot of rope, because like maybe one day he'll figure it out, they're not going to give Zach the same rope because he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that highlight video. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that buzz from high school that Zach was like a off the radar prospect until what, like January of his final season.
Javoni put in a real track for him.
And look, I'm not picking on you, by the way. I can promise you, the Hawks did not pick him because of Jonathan Givony. I say that all the time. Like teams don't care about Jonathan Givony. Like generally, now publicly, sure, he definitely raised his profile publicly. I'm not arguing with that at all. That happened.
Oh my god!
But teams don't pick because ESPN has the guy number one. They don't care about that. It's just funny. I know the jokes are funny, but I agree that look, I said this about Rising Stars. Some of the jokes were really funny. Like I thought it was like totally. I thought it was like totally out of pocket. I thought it was like really kind of ridiculous, but the jokes were funny. Like some of the like. I
told the group chat, I was like, "This is meaningless for his career, but this is going to be really funny." I was like,
"It was funny." Like I wasn't even look. Candidly, I wasn't even watching. I turned it on because people were like, "Oh my God, Zach can't make a shot." I'm like, "Oh God, here we go again." I turned it on. I'm like, oh. I was like, "Okay, he played 4 minutes.
Yeah,
4 minutes. It's fine." Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling.
You're good. You're good.
I will say, this is my last thing on Zach too. I think the Hawks also can't wait around to see what he becomes. I think that's probably the problem I had with Dre. I think we knew what Dre was by year 3, and of course we were married to him because of that contract. After a while, we couldn't move him. He stayed hurt. We couldn't get any value with it until he actually could play, etc., etc. But I'm calling this like the Dre. Every time we have a player like this, I'm just naming it the Dre thing because it's like you can't wait to see, especially if they're doing bad early on or they're just not living up to the expectation that you probably had on them. You just can't keep waiting to see what's going to happen. Like eventually,
it also depends on your situation too.
Yeah, like again, you want to compete next year. You can't keep waiting to see. Okay, can he become that? Can he finally do this?
Yeah, I mean, there is a danger. As much as like I feel like I've defended Zach, I feel like I'm probably on the higher right now, especially. I feel like I'm on the higher end of Zach, and I'm not like a Zach stan. I think he's got real flaws and is not guaranteed to be anything. But there is, and I actually had a chat with somebody. I'm not trying to do the reporting thing, but with a scout this last week, actually in the NBA, and it was like the danger is exactly what you're saying. Like if it doesn't bounce up a little bit, now you're stuck. Like there is kind of a not necessarily sell high, but there's like a sell when you could still get something for him, quality that the Hawks have to at least think about. And honestly, look, Ansi's very pragmatic. He's very process driven. He's not going to get into a spot where he feels bad or whatever, and he wants to hang on to Zach. Like he didn't draft Zach, that matters. But if this summer, for example, if they get an offer for Zach that Ansi thinks is more than he's worth, they will do it. Like here's a much lower stakes example. Vit Krejci, right? Yeah. People were mad about being traded. That was a very simple transaction. Ansi thought, hey, I'm being offered more than he's worth in my mind. And that might seem cool and calculated, and maybe it is, but that's what that trade was. It was like, hey, we're going to sell kind of high here on Vit.
I love
and Zach would be a different situation, but you know what I mean? Like if they get an offer right now this summer that's like, and Ansi's like, well, that's probably more with it that he might be, and maybe not. Like maybe I know that from what I've heard, the Hawks still believe in him as a general prospect. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean number one overall pick? No, but there is a balance that could be drawn there to where like The Hunter thing's definitely different. They paid him in a way that was very strange. That's a different conversation for another day. Tony Ressler got involved. Yeah. Never want that to happen.
I have a feeling if we get pick number 2 and AJ Devanza, that conversation is gonna immediately change.
Well,
though.
He's the one player, honestly, on the draft side. If you want to talk about the draft, he's the one guy where it really does become like, whoa, this is not good for Zach. Because I do think there's a role for Zach with Wilson, with Boozer, with Peterson, Wagler, Flemings. If it's Devanza, it's like 5-alarm fire for Zach.
He's gone. I feel like he's gone. Yeah.
So and the thing is, the problem is the league knows that. Like it's the same thing where it's similar to when it's like, oh, the Hawks could have traded Trey and drafted Reed Shepherd or whatever. It's like, well, if you draft Reed Shepherd, the entire league knows immediately that you're going to try to turn around and trade Trey, and you have no leverage at all. It's not the same situation, but it's very similar. Like, guys, these other teams have scouts too. They know what's going to happen. Like, so if they draft Devanza, you can't just trade Risacher for full value at that point because they know they have you over a barrel. It's this interesting kind of back and forth.
It's just gonna be like really interesting to see what happens with Risacher. I just really hope he improves during the second half because I'm not a Risacher fan either. It's just people have just been like completely going off on him, and I see like the framework of a good NBA player. It's just that I just hope that he could maybe improve eventually in year 3, because I think that's literally just gonna be the make or break here. Because if he does it, then I mean it becomes like kind of like what Marco said, like the Dre situation where we're just kind of stuck with him.
Well, we've argued about this so much in our group chats, just privately. And it's we talk about like the mystery box of like young players. He's so young that like people are like, well, he could still be this or that. But I was like, guys, it can flip so fast. And I was like, before the end of the season, people are going to be flipped, because it doesn't take long. Last offseason, Marco wanted us to go get Jabari Smith, and he was talking about him like he was dog water. And I'm like, and it's because he's so young, and until these guys like play well, it starts to trend down in the value. So having a guy that's like willing to churn it, I think is important, especially when you're trying to find something that works around Jalen Johnson. If the Hawks didn't have a North Star, I think it would be different when it comes to developing Zach, and you could really just let him go do whatever because you're not worried about Jalen getting his reps down the stretch of the game. But the Hawks have a plan, and Jalen is like the priority, and Zach is not quite that. I think he's in the mix, right? They're developing all their young players, but there's tiers to it, and I think Zach could play his way into that, but he's probably got to do it sooner than later, especially if they manage to get AJ, because, man, that boy's good. They got Kuminga in already. I think the pressure is on now, and I think he does really need to – it's the NBA, and I know, like, as much as there's good feelings, right, and fans, like, want to root for Zach, he still has to, like, do the job, and they're going to find someone that can. Yeah.
No, it's a performance league. I mean, the Hawks have actually probably been on the higher end of like front office wise in the past. Going back to Travis, even Landry, like they really did kind of buy into like the culture vibe thing more than most teams do. Honestly, he's big on culture, but he's also, I think we've already seen it. Like I said, with Veep, like he's not afraid to cut a guy loose if they need to do that. I don't think there'll be any sacred cows where, like I've said this before, the only player on the roster that's like functionally untradeable is Jalen. That's it. I mean, they love Nikhil. I think Nikhil being traded right now would like shock me because they just got him and he had an awesome year. And Dyson this year was like basically untradeable because of the contract. Even if they want to trade him and they don't want to trade him, they couldn't because it's poison pill and all that stuff. Those two guys, it's Jalen number 1, and then it's Dyson and Zach, Dyson and Nikhil in some order, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Zach's in the next group. Like they like that. They like him. They still like him. But him and Onyeka are basically the next two to like, look, we don't want to trade you, but if we get a blown away offer, we will. Okongwu got interest from teams this at the deadline. Indiana called, Boston called, a couple other teams called. If they got blown away, they would have traded him. They didn't want to, but they would have. Like that, they're still in the very clearly. Auntie's still in the like accumulation phase of the team. They're not married to this construction of the team. They're married to Jalen, and they, to a lesser extent, Dyson and Nikhil. But like, whoever the pick is, even if it's the 7th pick in the draft, which would be unfortunate for everybody involved, like that's the core. But like, look, Zach's not like definitely in that anymore. That's unfortunate for the number 1 overall pick a year and a half later. They like him. They're not going to give him away, but they're not. He's not untouchable, man. He's just not. That's that. And and by the way, he shouldn't be. Even if you like him, and I still do. He's not played to the level of untouchable guy that you just can't. That's like over here with Jalen. That's not where he is anymore. It's Jalen and the Pelicans pick are really the 2 things that they're like not going to be willing to move.
Yeah,
I agree. But let me, since we're about to like approach an hour, I'm gonna try and go through like some of these things real quick. So my first question I'm just gonna ask everyone in here is we have like 4 guys I mentioned in the beginning of the show that have have been getting, career highs in like development in either scoring assists, defense, stuff like that. And I just want to ask you, out of the 4 starters, which one do you think has been like the most impressive generally? So it's between Jalen, Nikhil, Dyson, or Onyeka. So I'm just gonna start with you, Marco, since I don't think you actually started the question.
I'll say Nikhil. I've always been high on Jalen. I'm never gonna. I wanted Jalen to. I even said something crazy early before the season started. I'm like, Jalen might just hit 30. That was just me talking crazy. But it's actually Nikhil, because he didn't do this last year. He was literally stuck to a role in Minnesota. He was a 3-and-D player. He hit some clutch threes for Minnesota, played defense when he needed to. He was literally in that role of a 3-and-D guy. So when he got here, I remember talking to Mikey off of Sports Ethos with Tim, and we met at the home opener, and we were like, Nikhil shouldn't be taking this many shots, because like he was nasty the first like 2 games, but the home opener against Toronto was like really nasty. I think he finished like 3-13 or something like that. And we were just like, he shouldn't be taking this many shots. And like that following week comes, and he's actually like hitting deep pocket corner threes. He's actually getting to the rim very easily. He's getting to his spots mid range. And I know Quinn isn't the biggest fan of middies, but like, sometimes you got to let your guy take those middies because that's just in their game. And then he started getting up to like 20 points. I think he's reached like 30 a few times this year. And I'm like, that's actually pretty insane for him. And that's pretty insane value for for the contract you have him on. You have him on 16 a year. It's kind of, most guys that's making 16 a year aren't doing what he's doing. So that's a pretty good move by Onzi. And like Nikhil also said, he wanted to come here too. So it was been pretty good all around. So I will say Nikhil. We can just go to Brad.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going by like go back to October expectations, is that the question basically?
Yeah.
I think Nikhil is the answer, but not without having to say that. I mean, it's not Dyson. I like Dyson. I think Dyson's having a better season than people think he is. He just can't shoot right now. And like,
yeah.
Because he can't shoot, people are like, oh, he stinks now. It's like, no, he's actually quite good. The on-off stuff's really good for him. The impact measure really good. He's still really good. He just happens to not be able to shoot right now. That's a problem long-term, I will say, if they can't fix it. But right now, he's still playing well. Onyeka's been kind of what I expected him to be. He's playing too much, which is not his fault. It's because they don't have Porzingis. I've been on that for a while now, but like, he's at a level of minutes per game that like is only stars that play that much, and he's not a star. I like him. He's not a star. So those 2 guys, like Dyson and Onyeka, are kind of like in the like meets expectations portion of the program for me. So if it's not Nikhil, I mean, Jalen exceeded I think I've always liked Jalen too. That was a steal of a pick, all that stuff, slow development. Jalen's, by the way, a cautionary tale to not give up on a guy too early, because it took 2.5 years. Granted, Zach was not the level of anyway. I think Jalen's been excellent though. Like I thought All-Star was like a potential outcome for Jalen this year, but I wasn't being like, hey, he's definitely gonna make the All-Star team. So like he's been playing at the passing especially is at a level that I couldn't have projected this season. For example, he's putting up numbers that like nobody else has other than like Jokic and maybe Şengün. Like you can't fake that stuff. So Jalen's got, I mean, I have my fools, but Jalen's defense has got to get back to where it used to be, but he's been awesome this year. So I think Nikhil and Jalen are the 2 that's like very clearly they've been better than you could have projected them to be this year.
Chris, what do you say?
Onyeka's toughness was the most impressive thing because he took that elbow to the grill and came back and played with a Bane mask. So I just want to shout out him for that,
dude.
That was badass. It was one of the Jalen's reaction when Onyeka's running off the floor was like, yeah, that was intense. But overall, I would have to say Jalen. Like Brad said, I've been super high on Jalen for a while, and I think it was a perfect storm, right, with Trey going out. I think he got to like add a little extra responsibility, which got the numbers where they needed to go. But Jalen averaged a triple-double for a month already. I thought there was more to unlock, but now I feel like there's even more because of what he's showing this year. He's making strides, and Jalen is really, really number one, man. And they gave him that number for a reason, I think, because he's proven he's earned it. He's balling, and yeah, more Jalen. I can't wait to see what Auntie puts around him.
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably Jalen. Like he's took another big leap this year. He's leading the team in points, rebound, assists. He made his first All-Star game, and he deserves his break. He was apparently really good in the All-Star game. I didn't watch it because I don't really care about that. Okay, Chris. But I think, I'm just really impressed, like how he has managed to like really rise up to being the number one guy on this team. Honestly, I thought he has been like really, really good this season. So I would say Jalen for me. All right, second out of three questions. Kuminga, good or bad? Brad, you can go first.
What, as a player or the transaction or what?
Or, I mean, I guess on this team, I don't know. I kind of just made that
good,
up.
Oh man, good or bad? It's hard for me. Intrigued. Like I said this on my show and got the Kuminga fans are really not happy with me, which is I wasn't even crapping on the guy. I think he's a talented player. I was a little lower on him as a draft prospect. And like, he's the kind of player that I tend to be a little bit lower on. He's like a points first guy. Like, that's not usually what I love, but he has clear talent. Like the rim pressure stuff. I think him and Jalen will be interesting together. I'm not ruling out that they could be good together, but like, that's not like the most natural pairing in the world. It will help to have some shooting at center. If you look at some of the data for the Warriors, where they got in trouble with Kuminga was when he was playing with Jimmy and Draymond, and because they didn't have shooting, and the Hawks have shooting at center, which does help. I didn't love the transaction. Like I wasn't like dancing in the street like I was with the Pelicans trade on draft night, where I was like in awe of the trade. But I also like totally get it, and it's like a super easy buy low opportunity that costs you basically nothing. It costs you $3 million of Buddy Hield, essentially. Like KP, I'm not like writing off. But given what he had not been giving you, I totally get it. And by the way, if it doesn't work, they can get out of it with zero pain. So
yeah,
good. I guess to answer your question with one word, I'll say good versus bad. I wouldn't say great, but I think the whole thing makes total sense to me.
All right, Chris.
You don't have to ask me, Ant. You already know my answer to this. We talked about this all summer.
Oh yeah, we did. We did.
I wanted Kuminga last summer because of the rim pressure that he brings, and Kerr wasn't using him. I've seen him just have crazy scoring outbursts in big games that he has no real business like scoring that much in. I think he's a talented player. It's a skill set that we needed, and if you're not allowed to draft for fit, right, then I need some trades for fit, and I think JK was a really easy one to bring in, and honestly, he played it better than I really expected because I probably would have gave up more than he did last summer. And if this was a guy who was plotting on to bring in KP and just kind of wait the Warriors out on it until they had to give him away, I think was great. It's a low risk, high reward move. If he gives you anything, it's a win for me. I think it's profit. This is a guy. I don't think you need him to be a superstar. I think just playing a role next to Jalen. He can give you kind of the extra offense that you need right now and see what comes from that. So I say good. For the cost, I don't know if you could even say bad, realistically.
Marco.
I like the Kuminga as a player. Kuminga's good to me. He's still raw in some areas, and we really don't know what Kuminga is fully. Like we have an idea, but we really don't know what Kuminga as a player is because him and Kerr beefing, not having a real role on the Warriors, and all that good jazz. But like Chris said, he fits the bill that we need. We needed a guy that can just get to the rim at any kind, and like he's a pretty good rim runner. He's his defense is actually pretty solid. Perimeter defense is actually pretty solid, better than some people probably will give him credit for. So I think all you asking from Kuminga, like for these next 20 plus games that we have, go out there, hoop, and then we can kind of get an idea of what you want. If you go out there and do better than what we say, then that's an easy thing. We'll bring you back. Bam, bam. If it's not if Kuminga just feels like he doesn't like the role that the Hawks are giving him right now, and because he's said it multiple times, he sees himself as a star, and every young player is going to say that. Bones Highland said that at one point. Now he's a role player in today's NBA. So it's like, if he just is really stuck on that I'm a star mindset and he just doesn't want to be there, cool, is whatever. We tested it out, we tried. For the value you got Kuminga, again, you got $3 million of Buddy Hield, which you can also easily let go if you're not married to that little $3 million. And also you can, again, let go of Kuminga, if anything. I do feel like if Kuminga does do well, you do have some talks there. Not going to get too much deep into that one, but that is a talk that you will have to have in the future.
For me, I would say last week I said I was against the Kuminga trade. I slowly started to warm up to it. So I'm honestly going to say good. I think if he provides like some of what I think he can with this team, I think it's just going to be good overall. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with just acquiring more talent. That's always what you want to see. So overall, I think that's good for the team. So we'll just see what happens with Kuminga. I hope Kuminga and Jalen works. That's my main thing I want to see together. So, and my last question is, do you think the Hawks are going to make the playoffs? And I'm going to start with Marco. We have the 20. I'm going to start with this. I'm on Tankathon. They say we have the 27th easiest schedule. So that's something you can think about.
I will be quite shocked if we don't make the play. Like, even for where we are, by all means, we're not a bad team. You have to really look at the issues we've had this season. Again, 17 games of KP is crazy. But and then Trey being out, then you just end up trading Trey, whatever. Like, you really have to look at the finer details of this team. We're not a bad team, and I think you finally have a real group now that can somewhat compete. They definitely needed this All-Star break as much as anybody. They really needed to get some guys on board. They really needed that rest, especially on Yeka, because again, he's playing too many minutes that he really shouldn't be playing. So I say we're going to make the playoffs. We might be at bounce first round. Cool, whatever. You said you made the playoffs. That's an improvement from the last 2 seasons. So, yes.
What do you think, Chris?
I'll say yes. I think they'll make the play-in for sure. And I think with the extra bodies, they have a chance to beat anybody that's in the play-in. I'll probably take Jalen Johnson over any of those guys. So, yeah, I'll say the Hawks make the playoffs.
And what do you say, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I would be fairly shocked if they don't make the play-in. I think they're more likely to be the 7 seed than not make the play-in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like the teams in front of them, the Hawks. I'm not saying the Hawks are in a great shakes, but like I am not impressed with Orlando or Miami or like any. I'm just not impressed. So going through the play-in, like it's a 2-game sample. I mean, it's not sexy to say, but it's a 1 or 2 game sample. Like it's kind of random, to be honest. But I do like if the Hawks are at full strength, not a given. With Kuminga, and I think Kuminga's got some volatility, but I can't think he's going to help them. Then yeah, I think I would lean to the Hawks making the playoffs. I mean, I'd probably say it's not like, I don't know, 60% to make the playoffs, 55%, like only slightly above water to make the play-in's like 90%, I think. But I mean, it really comes down to like who's available at the right time. If the Hawks get 2 more injuries, then no, they're probably drawing dead. Like if Okongwu was hurt in the playoffs, people think Okongwu stinks or whatever, like they're dead. If they don't have Okongwu, they're dead. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude about it. Dyson's kind of the same thing.
You're right, but yeah.
People are mad about Dyson. Like if you look at Dyson's on off split sometime. They don't play very well without Dyson. And obviously Jalen's the ultimate one where if Jalen's not playing, you're dead. But I think that assuming reasonable health, I will say they make the playoffs, but you have to acknowledge they're the 10 spot right now. If you go into the play-in as the 10th spot, you can make the playoffs, but it's not easy. Like you got to win 2 road games in a row. They need to win some games before they got to win some games now. I would say like this next month. You mentioned the schedule earlier. I did a deep dive on this recently. They have a tough game Thursday against Philly. After that, the next like 3 weeks is their easiest stretch of the entire season. They have 10 of the next 11 at home, and they play like Brooklyn twice and Washington twice, and like they have nothing is a given ever in the league. But like if they're ever going to go on a run this year where they win 8 out of 9, I think it's going to be in that like 3-week span. So if they're going to win some games, that would be the time to do it, starting like Friday.
For me, this is actually a really tough question I made. Honestly, I would lean towards yes. It just depends on where the Hornets land, because honestly, I don't think we're gonna beat the Hornets in the play-in because they're just playing so good. If it's anybody else, like I think they're gonna be fine. It's just the Hornets. I think it's anybody I think they can be in the play-in except the Hornets. That's just honestly it for me. So I'm just gonna say yes. But if they're facing it to the Hornets, I think they're gonna lose. So that's just me.
And we don't have to play them twice. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I think it's just gonna be an interesting interesting second half of the season going forward. So does anyone have any quick final thoughts before we close this out? No?
Just thank you, Brad, for coming on with our little pod.
Thank you so much, Brad. Yeah.
No little, man. Everybody's doing their thing. I'm always it's funny. People used to ask me more. I don't know. I think maybe I just was bad on everybody's podcast. Somebody asked me to come on.
No, you were good.
This is fun, awesome. Guys. I appreciate the invite and the flexibility. My schedule is always crazy, but I appreciate you guys letting me come on and chop it up a little. I'm happy to do it anytime. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. No problem. And with that, thank you all so much for listening or watching Hard Knock Hawks episode 61. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever you do with the episode. And we will see you all next time.
The cacao now. We're on to new things.